Hi, this is Patrick Conroy, and this is Chapter 3 of Family Law, Compiling a Family History. Now, this might seem like it would be very easy, but sometimes things can get very complicated because some families are very complicated. And what you will need to do is the office must compile the equivalent of a life history of the client and the client's family. And I'll explain a little bit more about that. Um, when this is going to be the most important is that there may be contested legal issues or complex factual issues, will involve relatively large sums of money and other property, will involve suspected asset hiding. And these can come up in issues related to divorce and inheritance and custody. So all of these things, and the family might be like, well, it's not important, so I just won't mention it. No, you need to know because you don't want your lawyer to be surprised by something that comes up. Now, what does the client want? You can ask the client what they want, but if they don't understand the legal possibilities of all the things that, you know, all the various scenarios that could play out, they might not be able to articulate what they want. So you kind of like go through options and some legal and non-legal possibilities with the client and really make them feel comfortable so they can provide you with more information. You just want them to start talking and talking and talking because they think you're the best friend. And so then you have to pick out in what they're talking about that's relevant. So here's some interviewing guidelines. Establish a relationship of confidence and trust. So, you have to be respectful. You have to make them feel at ease. You have to show them that you are on their side. Now, set aside an adequate amount of time to conduct the interview. You don't want to be rushed or have to go off and answer phones or see other people. Dress conservatively and professionally. You have to adjust to them. Do not expect them to adjust to you because you're the one trying to make them feel comfortable. It's not about you being comfortable. Clear away open files and papers of other clients. You don't want them looking to see what they can see about someone else. And it also gives the impression that others might see their stuff if you have a client's stuff. Um, Make sure the client is comfortable physically. Um, get them something to drink. Um, Maybe a donut or something. Make sure the chair is comfortable and that's the right height. Give the client your business card. This sets up a relationship where they realize it's a professional relationship and also that they can call you and contact you afterwards if they have more things that they forgot to tell you. Make sure the client knows you are not an attorney. We've gone over that unauthorized practice of law. Prepare the client for what will happen during the interview. So before you start actually asking questions, you explain what the process will look like. Might even say why you need to know some information and maintain eye contact as much as possible, though you are taking notes. Use great sensitivity in obtaining facts from the client. Sometimes there are things that they don't think are important or they'd rather not tell you that you really need to know. Hey, so are you an only child? And they say yes. And then they forget to mention that their father had an affair at some point. And so you have sort of a half sibling. Have a half sibling that they don't really have anything to do with, so they don't consider them their sibling, so they're not going to mention them. Well, that half sibling, could appear in inheritance issues. Or, their husband has an affair, baby. Well, they need to know that. I mean, your lawyer needs to know all that. Encourage the client to do most of the talking. You're there to listen. And the more that they're talking, instead of just answering yes or no questions, the more information you will get. Encourage the client to express his or her feelings whenever this might be helpful in obtaining underlying facts. Interpret the client's body language. If they seem all tight and they've got their arms crossed, their legs crossed, then they're not open to discussing with you. So what you have to be doing is figuring out ways to make them relax. Take your notes in the language of the client. Avoid extensive paraphrasing. Make sure that you know what they mean. Never talk down to or criticize a client. This will make them clam up more than anything. Avoid disparaging comments about the opposing attorney or about the client's spouse. They might think that their spouse is the most horrible devil on creation. And you just nod. You don't say you're right, they're scum, because they might get back together. And then she won't trust you because you don't like her husband. Do not give legal advice. Okay, find out what all family members have access to, what cell and other digital devices they have, what email programs they use, what social networks they are, and what other interactive websites they regularly use by uploading pictures and entering other data about themselves and their special interests. Because that might, those things might provide important evidence down the line. So, basic information, the marital facts, the prior contacts, itemized expenses. And there might be some things that they don't want to tell you that they spend money on, but you need to know. Health information, wills and trusts, rearing and custody of children, business interests, family members that they might not talk to, but they exist. All of those things you really need to know. Miscellaneous income. You need to, oh, we've got a side job. I don't really, count that as part of my income. I don't pay taxes. You need to know that. Insurance claims or court claims that are currently, in the court system. Frequently overlooked assets, liabilities, tax returns, assets of the children, professional persons hired or consulted. When you're going to be doing the property settlement, you need to know all of this so that you can properly divide the property. They might have assets they don't really think about. It's like, oh yeah, my sister and I, we co-own. My mother left us her house, but my sister lives in it because she took care of my mother. Well, that's an asset. And assets of your children. You might think my children don't have anything, but maybe somebody left them like a savings account or some property. So this is all about gathering information so that you can figure out what legal issues come up. Don't expect the client to know all the legal issues possible. That's for your attorney to decide. You're gathering as much information as you can so that they can make that determination. See, very simple lecture, and good luck with this week's material.